Black Maid secretly took daughter to Millionaire's mansion. His reaction changed everything. Amara Okoye, a strong woman who carries the burden of raising her daughter alone amid life's hardships, sees her routine change forever when she crosses paths with William Bradford, a millionaire marked by loneliness and loss. Between the cold luxury of the mansion and the simplicity of someone fighting only for dignity, an unexpected bond is born, made of pain, tenderness, and courage. Amid judgment, prejudice, and obstacles that seem insurmountable, the two discover that true power lies not in money or social status, but in something neither of them expected to feel again, a love capable of transforming destinies. Before we begin this emotional story, I want to invite you to join me. Leave a comment below saying where you're watching from. I love seeing how far our stories go. And if you enjoy love plots full of twists and heartwarming endings, subscribe to the channel. That way, you won't miss any new videos and you'll help this space grow, so we can keep bringing more stories that touch the soul. The morning in Atlanta begins with the distant sound of sirens and the hum of the window air conditioner. In the cramped studio, Amara Okoye adjusts her light green uniform and runs her hand over the worn-out fabric like someone checking their armor before battle. Her ebony skin reflects the pale light that seeps through the blinds. Her fingers, marked by detergents and disinfectants, tie her curly hair into a low bun. Around her neck, the thin silver chain inherited from her mother. She takes a deep breath and looks at her daughter. Zara, 7 years old, light brown skin, honey-colored eyes that always seem to ask the questions the world doesn't answer, is sitting on the bed with a stuffed bear in her lap. Her curly hair is in 2 small buns. Her school backpack is open, a picture book lying nearby to help pass the time. "Is mommy coming home early today?" Zara asks, fiddling with the zipper. "I'll try, my love," says Amara, kneeling to be at the girl's eye level. "Queen behavior, okay? Eat properly, drink water, and no opening the window." Her phone vibrates. On the screen, the name of Mrs. Ruth, the neighbor who sometimes watches Zara. Amara answers. Her face hardens as she listens. "I understand, Mrs. Pomnuth." "Ruth, of course. You have to go to the doctor." "Yes, I'll manage." She hangs up slowly, like someone setting down a fine glass to avoid breaking it. The emptiness in the room feels bigger. Zara notices. "Mommy." "Mrs. Ruth can't stay with you today," Amara says, and her heart races. The mansion's rule is clear. No visitors, no children. The rule in her life is harsher. No job, no rent. She checks the clock, calculates the time for the MARTA bus on Moreland Avenue, the transfer at the station, the electric gate at the mansion in Buckhead, the security guards patrol. In her mind, everything falls into place like shelves. Cloth, water, cleaning supplies, silence. "Zara, today you're coming with me," she says at last, her voice firm. "It'll be our little secret. You'll be as small as the wind and as quiet as the morning." "I can be wind," Zara whispers, making a brave pout. On the bus, the bumps reveal a city in layers. They pass mirrored buildings, construction sites, campaign posters, a church with the sign service at 7 p.m. Amara holds the overhead strap with one hand and Zara's backpack with the other. She feels watched, and yet invisible. In the girl's lap, the picture book opens in silence. The driver announces the next stop. Amara gets off and walks quickly, guiding her daughter through immaculate streets, where the lawns are so smooth they look edited. The Bradford mansion gate stands tall, made of ornate iron. The intercom is a cold rectangle. Amara types the usual code. The camera blinks, the gate slides open, so does her heart. "Remember our deal?" she whispers. "Wind," replies Zara, clutching her teddy bear. They enter through the service entrance, a bright corridor smelling of pine. On the wall, A formal portrait of the homeowner Amara has seen before. William Bradford, 38 years old. White, tall, broad-shouldered like someone who goes to the gym. Dark brown hair slicked back. Blue eyes that seem to measure distance. Always in a dark suit, a sober tie, a presence that fills the room with silence before a word is spoken. They say he was widowed young. They say a lot in a big house. Amara leads Zara to the laundry room, a space with white cabinets and a high window. She opens an empty cabinet, lays out some clean towels on the floor. "You'll stay here for a little while, my love?" "I've got a lot to do. I'll check on you all the time. If someone comes in, remember to become wind, okay?" Zara nods, her eyes shining more with fear than adventure. "What if I get thirsty? 2 water bottles, cookies, and your book. And my phone will vibrate in your pocket if I send a message. Don't go out. I'll come back." Amara closes the cabinet door, but not all the way. She leaves a crack for air. Her stomach turns like she's still on the bus. She arranges the cleaning cart. Cloths sorted by color, bucket, mop, spray bottles with lined-up labels. Everything about her seeks order, because life insists on chaos. In the main hallway, the polished marble reflects her image in fragments. "Focus, Amara," she whispers to herself. She starts in the living room, picks up the microfiber cloth. Precise, circular movements, leaving no streaks. Every surface has a sequence. The wooden console needs one product, the glass table another. The clock reads 8:45. The property manager, Mrs. Collins, usually arrives by 9:30. The nannies come at 10. William himself usually appears only in the afternoon. Coming from the company headquarters. "Excuse me," says a woman's voice in the distance. It's Mrs. Collins, earlier than usual. Amara straightens her posture. "Good morning, Mrs. Collins." The middle-aged woman, fair-skinned, beige blazer, casts a quick, scrutinizing glance. Routines changed. Mr. Bradford had a meeting cancelled. Go ahead and prepare his office first. And no noise. He's sensitive today. "Yes, ma'am." Amara's heart races. The office is close to the laundry area. She needs to change the plan without changing her expression. She walks alongside the woman down the corridor, memorizing her steps, the echo, the time between instructions. Once alone, she exhales. "Wind," she repeats inwardly, as if the word could wrap around Zara. In the office, the scent is of new leather, coffee, and expensive paper. Shelves with aligned spines. A black and white photo of a boy on a smiling woman's lap. Amara swallows the lump in her throat and focuses. She cleans the desk, organizes pens, erases a small cup ring with the care of a restorer. The silence is broken by a faint sound in the air, like a swallowed cough. A reminder that the laundry room is just a few steps away. She puts her ear to the service corridor door. "Nothing?" Sends a quick text. "You okay?" The reply vibrates in her pocket. Wind. She nearly smiles. Nearly. The crunch of tires on the gravel outside cuts the air. A powerful engine. Electric locks engage. It's too early. Amara aligns the cart, rushes toward the laundry, touches the knob with cold fingers. "Zara," she whispers, and a pair of honey-colored eyes peek through the crack. "Stay really quiet." "Okay, wind," the girl repeats, now as a secret shared between them and God. Amara closes the door, breathes, turns around. The corridor feels longer than before. She pushes the cart toward the hall, rehearsing the neutral expression of someone who exists only to serve. The approaching footsteps are firm, spaced, from someone who's never in a hurry because the world waits for him. Amara sees the shadow on the marble first, then the figure through the glass door. When William Bradford enters, the morning light outlines the lines of his dark suit and his blue eyes appear like a cut in the sky. "Good morning," he says, his voice deep, without harshness, but also without warmth. "Good morning, sir," replies Amara, nodding slightly. Her throat is dry. The cart feels heavier than ever. Somewhere behind her, in a safe spot, a child is trying to become wind. The hall still held the cold gleam of marble as Amara wiped the edge of the railing, trying to make the precise motion drown out the fear pounding in her chest. William, freshly arrived, crossed the space with silent steps. Dark suit immaculate, leather briefcase in hand. He had greeted her without harshness, but the weight of his name seemed to walk through the house before his own footsteps. Amara bowed her head and went back to work, mentally counting the minutes until she could check the laundry again. In the hallway leading to the service wing, a breeze crept through the tall window and began to play with the paper tags Amara used to label cleaning products. The same breeze slipped through the crack in the door where Zara, curled up between folded towels and 2 water bottles, battled curiosity. The girl squeezed her teddy bear, heard in the distance the chime of an old clock striking 9:10, and for a moment thought her mother had called her. "Wind," she whispered to herself, and opened the door just enough to slip out like a shadow. The laundry opened into a geometric white hallway with minimalist paintings and the scent of pine. Zara walked on tiptoe, her 2 buns trembling with anxiety. She stopped in front of a low table where a red toy car with silver stripes rested. Her small fingers touched the cold metal, as if touching a secret. The silence was so deep, the house seemed to hold its breath with her. On the other side, William placed his briefcase on the entryway console and removed his watch to adjust the sleeve of his suit. His face, with sharp features and neatly trimmed stubble, held the pale tone of someone who had slept little. His blue eyes always seemed to assess risks and exit strategies. He reached his office door, but something made him look back, a red reflection crossing the floor, followed by a whisper that didn't belong in that house. "Wind." The girl appeared like a sweet surprise in the doorway, standing between the shine of the floor and the shadow of a bookshelf. A simple dress, worn sneakers, the teddy bear pressed tightly against her chest. William frowned, first out of habit, then out of surprise. Children here. There shouldn't be any. For a second, his internal protocol lit up. Security, rules, home insurance, contracts. In the next second, something older and more human silenced everything. The memory of his own son, once upstairs in this very house, and the memory of the woman who was no longer there. "Hi," said Zara, her voice so small it sounded like fear and courage mixed together. "Sorry. I was looking for Wind." William lowered his gaze to her level, the skeptical look on his face relaxing slightly. "Looking for Wind?" "Yes, so I can be light. Mommy said today I have to be Wind." The word tightened in his chest like a knot. His wife used to turn pain into simple images. "Breathe like the wind," she used to say when their baby cried for no reason. He swallowed the memory like a bitter pill. He kneeled down to be at the girl's level, and the expensive suit creaked slightly at the knee. "What's your name?" he asked, with a softness that even surprised him. "Zara," she replied, hiding the teddy bear behind her back as if hiding the toy would erase her guilt. "I can't talk much, okay? It's a secret." A Wind secret, he guessed, and one corner of his mouth almost smiled. A mommy secret. Her honey-colored eyes didn't look away. "Do you live here?" "I do." He breathed more slowly, as if relearning how. "And you shouldn't be alone in the hallways. It's dangerous to get lost." "I got lost," she admitted quietly. "But I know the way back, I think." Amara noticed Zara was missing when she checked her phone and didn't get an immediate reply. She whispered, "Zara." But the cabinet only returned the smell of soap and warmth. Panic came in short waves. She breathed, counted to 3, and walked down the hallway, each step controlled, her eyes scanning every corner like someone searching for a needle in the light. With every turn, the worst image played in her head. Mrs. Mills Collins finding her daughter first. Immediate termination. No rent at the end of the month. Zara pointed to the metal toy car on the low table. "That car is really pretty. Looks fast." "It's a miniature Shelby Cobra," said William without thinking, the precise pronunciation slicing the air like a fine blade. "It was my father's. He gave it to me when I was your age. Was your dad nice?" The question came without malice, just the curiosity of someone who still believes adults know what they're doing. William searched for the right word, like someone looking for a door in a dark hallway. He was busy, but there were good moments. Zara tilted her head, studying his face with the seriousness of someone measuring truths. "You look sad. Sometimes I do." The honesty came out before the calculation. "And you?" "Only when mommy cries quietly." She bit her lower lip, as if she'd said too much. "But I'm wind. Today I'm wind." A kind of ancient tenderness swept through William. There she was, a little girl who didn't belong in this house, practicing invisibility to fit into a world that didn't want her. He thought about calling someone, activating the protocol. Instead, he offered his hand. "Let's sit over there just for a minute. I'll get you some water. No one needs to know the wind passed through here." Zara took his hand without hesitation, small and warm. The texture of a child's fingers brought back a whole memory. A sunlit kitchen in the morning, short laughs, a wooden spoon tapping a bowl, his wife singing a simple song. The pain arrived politely, like a guest who's never late or early. Amara turned the corner of the hall and stopped abruptly. She saw Zara's tiny hand first, then William's profile, kneeling, offering a cup of water to the child. Her world shrank to a point. The blood drained from her face. Every broken rule had a face and a name now. "Mr. Bradford." Her voice came out thin, held up only by the dignity that never left her, even when everything else did. I can explain." Zara turned quickly, ready to speak for both of them. "It's my fault. I'm the one who left. I'm wind, but wind doesn't know maps." William raised his hand, a calm gesture from someone who knows how to command storms, and looked at Amara. For the first time, he noticed her beyond the uniform, luminous ebony skin under the morning light, hands marked by labor, deep eyes that held both exhaustion and pride in equal measure. Her light African accent gave her words a musical tone, and the bun in her hair looked like a subtle kind of armor. "We don't need long explanations right now," he said, his voice firm but not cold. "Kids get lost. Adults handle it." He handed the cup to Zara and stood up. "Are you her mother?" "Yes, sir." "Amara Okoye." She stood straight, hands clasped to hide their shaking. "I had no one to leave her with today. It won't happen again." Maybe it doesn't have to be about whether it happens again or not. He measured every word. "Can we make sure she stays safe for now? I have a side room by my office with some couches and a small TV. I can have juice brought in." Amara blinked, unsure where to place that offer in a world that always demanded payment before offering shelter. "I thank you, sir." "Sir? If it's not too much trouble. It's a big house. She can breathe." William turned to Zara. "Deal?" "You stay close, and I'll let your mom know how you're doing every 30 minutes. Zara looked at her mom like she was asking permission to exist. I promise I'll be really quiet, Wind." Amara nodded, swallowing the guilt that scratched at her insides. Wind promises mean a lot in our family. "Then it's a deal." William offered his hand to the girl again, and as he did, the smartwatch on his wrist vibrated with a notification. He dismissed it without looking, but another vibration came, persistent. The third brought a familiar sound that froze the air. A baby crying through the upstairs intercom, audio coming from the nursery monitor. A desperate, hungry, recent cry. William's expression hardened for a moment, not from rejection but from memory. "Excuse me a moment." He touched the earpiece in his pocket, activating the internal system. "Is Catherine in the house?" he asked, referring to one of the nannies. The response came back empty. No reply, the control room confirmed. He inhaled deeply, the blue in his eyes flickering between control and concern. He turned to Amara, torn between two worlds that needed him at once. "I need to go upstairs now." Zara, holding her own fear as best she could, stepped forward. "I know how to soothe babies," she said almost like a secret. "I help Mommy with our neighbor's baby. I can try." Amara's eyes widened. The words didn't reach her mouth. William hesitated for 2 long seconds. The crying from the intercom grew louder, tugging his decision like a magnet. "Come with me," he said, and the hallway seemed to stretch into infinity as the 3 of them walked toward the stairs, each carrying a different kind of courage. William climbed the marble staircase with long strides, Amara and Zara close behind. The baby's cry echoed through the intercom, filling every corner of the mansion, slicing through the luxurious silence like a knife. When they reached the child's room, William went in first and picked up his son. The boy, light-skinned with fine, light brown hair, was crying from hunger and longing for the mother who would never return. William held him stiffly, his muscles tense as if he were in a business meeting. Amara stepped forward, hesitating, and offered, "If you'll allow me, I can help." William looked over his shoulder, his blue eyes full of distrust. "You shouldn't even be here, Mrs. Okoye. This has gone too far." Zara, leaning against the wall, clutched her teddy bear to her chest, her eyes brimming with tears at seeing the baby in distress. "Mommy, please let me help. He's hungry." Amara knew she was risking everything, but her voice came out firm. "I'm a mother too. I know how to calm a baby. This isn't a time for protocol. It's a time for compassion." William hesitated, his son squirming even more in his arms. Finally, with a heavy sigh, he handed the child to Amara. She received him gently, pressing the boy to her chest and rocking him with smooth movements. She murmured a short lullaby in her native language, and the baby, as if by magic, began to settle. His crying faded into soft sobs, then into the rhythm of steady breathing. William watched, motionless. The contrast was stark, a man surrounded by wealth, technology, and hired help, yet unable to comfort his own son, and a woman from a modest neighborhood, surviving on minimum wage, who carried within her the gift of peace. "How? How did you do that?" he asked, his voice quieter than he intended. "It's not technique, sir. It's heart. Children know when someone offers real comfort." The silence that followed was heavy, filled with unspoken thoughts. Amara laid the now sleeping baby gently in the crib and turned to William. Her hands trembled, but her posture was upright. "Mr. Bradford, I know I made a terrible mistake bringing my daughter here. I had no other choice. There was no one to watch her, and I couldn't afford to lose my job. I'll accept any consequence. I just ask. Please don't blame her. The tears in Amara's eyes weren't from weakness, but from dignity. William stared at her for long moments. Every part of him wanted to reprimand her, fire her on the spot. The rules were clear, and he had always lived by the logic of rules. But something in the way this woman stood, the courage in admitting her mistake, the strength in protecting her child, disarmed his cold instincts. "I'm not going to fire you," he said at last, each word deliberate. "But understand this, Mrs. Okoye, I don't tolerate disobedience. This house has rules, and they can't be broken by anyone. What you did today was dangerous. If the management finds out, I won't be able to protect you." Amara nodded, her eyes misty, but she didn't look down. "I understand, sir, and thank you for the second chance. I won't ask for mercy again." Zara ran to her mother, hugging her leg. "I promise to be real wind, Mommy. I'll never get lost again." William looked away, but a shadow of emotion crossed his face. Deep down, he knew the rule he so strongly defended didn't apply to what he had just witnessed. A baby at peace in the arms of a woman who, in the eyes of the world, was supposed to be invisible. As Amara left the room holding her daughter's hand, William stood silently in front of the crib, watching his son's peaceful sleep. The silence in the house returned, but now it carried something new, a strange unease, as if two realities had collided within the mansion's walls. He adjusted his tie, took a deep breath, and murmured to himself, "I don't know if I made a mistake, or if today everything started to change." The quiet in the room still held the weight of the earlier tension when the baby, now awake after a short nap, began to stir again. Amara leaned in to adjust the blanket around the boy, but Zara, with the innocence of someone who doesn't know boundaries, stepped closer to the crib and smiled brightly. "Hi, little one. Want to play with me?" she said softly, holding out her teddy bear. The baby, curious, grabbed the bear's ear and let out a short giggle, the kind that breaks any tension. William, who had been standing by the window with his arms crossed, looked away as if he didn't want to give in to the scene. But his blue eyes betrayed his heart. His son's laughter had been rare for months, and now it came so easily, drawn out by a 7-year-old girl who wasn't even supposed to be there. Zara pulled up a small chair and began to swing the teddy bear in front of the crib, making funny sounds. "Look, he likes it. Mommy, he's really laughing." Amara watched, touched, but kept her posture firm, knowing that any misstep could cost her dearly. "Zara, be careful not to tire him out. I'll just be fun, Wind," the girl replied, repeating the secret code she shared with her mother. The baby laughed louder, his chubby arms stretching toward her. William stepped closer, kneeling beside the crib. His usually rigid face softened for a moment. He's never reacted like this with the nannies. Never. Amara lowered her eyes, humble but not submissive. Children feel energy. Zara just offered real affection. And affection can't be bought, sir. The sentence hung in the air like a simple but profound revelation. William didn't respond right away. He just watched the maid's daughter playing with his own son while something quietly broke inside him. The wall of ice built since his wife's death. "You don't think it's risky to let your daughter get this close?" he asked, his deep voice trying to regain firmness. Amara took a deep breath before answering. "I trust her. And I believe that, just for a moment, your son also deserves to feel the lightness of friendship. You saw it yourself. He smiled. William looked away, as if he couldn't admit out loud the truth that was hitting him. Every laugh from the baby was a cruel reminder that he, with all his wealth, had failed to give that to his own child. And now a girl from a completely different world had done in minutes what he couldn't in months. Zara held the baby with Amara's help, who supported the boy's back with care. He nestled in and rested his face on her shoulder, falling asleep within seconds. The scene looked like a painting, the maid's daughter cradling the millionaire's son. Two worlds that should never have met, united by innocence. William took a step back, pressing his hand to his mouth as if hiding an emotion he didn't want to show. His voice came out low, almost a whisper. I didn't remember he could be at peace like that. Amara raised her gaze, steady and gentle at the same time. Sometimes, peace comes from where we least expect it. He looked at her, and for a moment, he didn't just see the maid in the green uniform. He saw a woman carrying dignity even in poverty, a mother who taught her daughter to be wind to survive a cruel world, a presence filling a void in his own home. The silence stretched, full of feelings neither dared to name. Until, from the hallway, a voice echoed, "Mr. Bradford, they're waiting for you in the meeting room." It was Mrs. Collins, the house manager, knocking discreetly on the door. William straightened, returning to his cold posture. "I'll be there in a minute," he replied. But before leaving, he cast one last glance at Amara and Zara. Something in his expression revealed. The ice had begun to melt, and nothing would be the same again. The door closed behind William after Mrs. Collins went call, but the echo of the look he had given Amara and Zara lingered in the air, as if the mansion had absorbed a secret. The baby slept peacefully in the crib, and Zara, still excited from playing, held her growling stomach. "Mommy, I'm hungry," she said softly, with a pleading look. Amara took a deep breath. The rules clearly stated that staff weren't allowed to use the main kitchen, but it was already late afternoon, and her daughter needed to eat. Decided, she gathered her courage and led Zara to the service kitchen, spacious and gleaming, with marble countertops and modern appliances that looked more like display pieces than things people actually used. "We're just going to make something quick, honey," she murmured, opening the pantry. She found rice, canned beans, a bit of chicken, simple ingredients amidst excess. As she chopped onions with steady hands, the smell began to spread, creeping into hallways unaccustomed to the scent of homemade food. Zara helped wash tomatoes, the adult apron covering nearly her entire small body. "Can I stir the pot, Mommy?" she asked enthusiastically. "You can, but be careful. That pot's as hot as an Atlanta summer," Amara replied, making her daughter laugh. Mid-prep, footsteps echoed in the hallway. Amara's heart raced, certain she was about to be reprimanded. William walked in without announcement, taking off his jacket and rolling up the sleeves of his white shirt. The smell of the food hit him like a punch of memories. He paused for a moment, took a deep breath, and said, "It's been years since this house smelled like real food." Amara jumped, nearly dropping the wooden spoon. "Forgive me, sir, I just didn't want my daughter to go hungry." "It wasn't my intention to intrude." William stepped closer, resting a hand on the cool countertop. His tone was gentler than she expected. "You don't need to explain. If anyone should apologize, maybe it's me, for having a kitchen this big and forgetting how to make something so simple." Zara, unaware of the weight in the air, interrupted with the spontaneity only children have. "Wanna eat with us, sir? It smells really good. Amara covered her mouth, horrified. Zara. But William surprised her. Actually, I'd love to. Minutes later, they sat at a side table, away from the formality of the main dining room. The plates were modest: fluffy rice, seasoned beans, golden chicken, and fresh salad. To Amara, it was almost embarrassing to see the millionaire sitting in front of such a simple meal. To him, it felt like stepping through a doorway into another life. William took the first bite. The flavor, rich and homemade, made him close his eyes for a second. This reminds me of my mother's cooking. She used to cook on Sundays, before everything became so fancy. Amara lowered her gaze, her cheeks burning. It's just basic food, sir. Nothing compared to what the chefs here can make. That's exactly the difference, he said, looking her in the eyes. The ordinary can be extraordinary when it brings back memories. The silence that followed was heavy. His eyes stayed on hers, and in that brief moment, there was no employer and maid, no millionaire and cleaning lady. Just two human beings, both carrying loss, both unknowingly seeking the same refuge, a real home. Zara broke the moment by clapping her hands. It's so good, Mommy. Better than school food. William smiled, genuinely, and the stiffness in his face softened even more. I agree with you, Zara. It's the best meal I've had in a long time. Amara looked away, her heart pounding. The fear of being caught by management still lingered, but something inside her also began to open, as if life had left a crack for hope to slip through. When they finished, William stood slowly, adjusting the sleeves of his shirt. Before leaving, he gave Amara one last look. It was quick, but there was a weight in it that neither of them dared speak aloud. In the hallway, Mrs. Collins appeared unexpectedly. Mr. Bradford, I didn't know you were still in the kitchen. Was there a problem? He looked at her for a second, then calmly replied, No problem, just a different kind of dinner. And he walked away, leaving Amara breathless, with the certainty that something new, dangerous, and inevitable had begun. The next morning, the mansion felt colder than ever. Sunlight streamed through the high windows, but didn't warm the atmosphere, now filled with whispers. Amara, silent, was polishing the railing when she noticed the side glances from the other staff. The murmurs ran through the corridors like electricity. Did you hear? One whispered. She brought her daughter here. Something like that won't go unpunished. Of course not, replied another, with disdain. She's taking advantage of the boss's sympathy. A maid like her shouldn't cross the line. Amara kept her head held high, but her heart tightened. Every word was an invisible knife. The fear of being fired was heavy, but even more painful was the humiliation of seeing her dignity treated like an offense. Soon after, Mrs. Collins called her into the admin office. The room, with polished furniture and the smell of fresh paper, felt like a courtroom. William was already seated behind the desk, posture stiff but with an unreadable expression. Beside him, two senior employees, the same ones who had spread the rumors, waited with a look of triumph. Mr. Bradford, Mrs. Collins began, adjusting her glasses. It's unacceptable for an employee to bring family members into the property. It compromises the house's security, your privacy, and the baby's. Everyone here follows clear rules. I believe there is no other option but to terminate Mrs. Okoye's contract immediately. The words fell like hammer blows. Amara swallowed hard, but did not look away. I take responsibility for my mistake. I had no one to leave my daughter with, and I didn't want to miss work. I didn't ask for special treatment. I was just trying to survive. One of the staff members scoffed with irony. Survive? And what else will she make up to get sympathy from the boss? Silence filled the room. William leaned forward, his face unreadable, but his voice carried authority. Enough. The women fell quiet, surprised. He looked directly at Amara, then at everyone present. It's true that Mrs. Okoye brought her daughter. It's also true that no harm was done. On the contrary, I saw my son smile and sleep peacefully like he hasn't in months. That's not a violation. That's humanity. Mrs. Ava Collins frowned, trying to protest. But sir, the house's reputation. William raised his hand, cutting her off. I'm not interested in a reputation built on cruelty. Mrs. Okoye will not be fired. In fact, she has earned my trust. If there are further rumors, they'll be treated as direct disrespect toward my authority. A heavy silence fell over the room. The employees exchanged uneasy glances. Amara, in disbelief at what she had just heard, felt her knees weaken. She bowed her head, her voice choked. Thank you, sir. I don't know how to thank you. William held her gaze, and behind his stern demeanor, there was something more. A spark of respect, maybe even admiration. You don't have to thank me. Just keep doing your job as you always have. That's all. Amara nodded, holding back the tears threatening to fall. For the first time, she saw in the millionaire that everyone feared not just a distant boss, but a man capable of defending someone the world insisted on overlooking. As she left the room, the murmurs ceased for a moment. She walked with her head held high, aware that even if they kept talking, she was no longer invisible. And deep in her heart, she knew that gesture had opened a door that would never close again. Night fell over Atlanta with a heavy weight. Rain tapped against the mansion's tall windows, turning each pane into a trembling mirror. The corridors, lit only by lamps, seemed larger, more solitary. William, unable to sleep, walked the lower floor in silence. He was used to facing the dark alone, but that night something felt different, as if the house held a breath that wasn't his. Then, as he passed the hallway leading to the service kitchen, he heard a muffled sound. It wasn't the wind or the gutters dripping. It was a stifled sob, the sound of someone trying to cry without being heard. He approached quietly and, opening the door, found Amara seated at the table, her green uniform wrinkled from a long day. Her face was buried in her hands, shoulders trembling. "Amara," he called softly, his voice laced with surprise. She stood up quickly, wiping the tears with the back of her hand. "I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean to intrude. I just needed a place to breathe." William watched her. For the first time, he didn't just see the employee. He saw the woman carrying an entire world on her shoulders. His usual composure softened. "You don't have to apologize for feeling." Amara looked away, embarrassed. "It's just that sometimes the weight is too much. I try to be strong for my daughter, but the truth is, many nights I fall apart." He stepped closer, resting his hands on the table. The sound of rain filled the silence between them. "What happened?" She took a deep breath, the words flowing like an open wound. "Zara's father left us before she was even born. Said he wasn't ready to carry a family. Since then, it's been just me against the world. I've washed dishes in restaurants, cleaned offices at night, skipped dinner so she could have food on her plate, and even so, sometimes I feel like it's not enough. The tears fell again, but now without hiding. William felt his chest tighten. That confession cut through any social barrier. He pulled out a chair and sat beside her, unhurried. "You have no idea how much I understand that," he said, his deep voice lower than usual. "My wife died suddenly. An accident. And since then, I haven't known how to be a father. I have money, I have resources, but I can't give my son what he really needs. All I do is work and hide behind rules." Amara lifted her head, surprised. It was rare to hear vulnerability in a man like him. "You always seem so confident, so in control." William let out a bitter laugh. "Control? It's just a facade. The truth is, many nights I look at the crib and feel like a failure. My son cries, and I don't know how to reach him." The pain in his eyes met the pain in hers. Two different stories, marked by the same ghost, loss and loneliness. "Sometimes," Amara said softly, "we don't have to be perfect. We just have to be present. That's what children feel. That's what Zara teaches me every day." William took a deep breath, as if her words had pierced the wall he had built around himself. He looked at her, and in that gaze was something he dared not name. Respect? Admiration? Perhaps even a feeling he hadn't allowed himself in a long time. The silence was broken only by the rain. The mansion, once a place of stone and ice, now held a surprising warmth. And in the moment their eyes met again, they both realized something had changed forever. But before any words could be spoken, footsteps approached in the hallway. Someone from the night staff, maybe Mrs. Collins, was making rounds. William stood abruptly, regaining his stone-faced posture. "This isn't the time to say more. But thank you for trusting me." Amara nodded, her eyes still damp. "And thank you for not judging me." He left, leaving her alone in the kitchen, but both their hearts now carried a quiet flame, lit in the middle of the storm. The next day brought a lighter atmosphere to the mansion, as if the night's storm had also washed away part of the cold walls. The baby had woken up restless, crying persistently, and the nanny on duty couldn't calm him. When William heard the sound echoing through the halls, he dropped his office papers and rushed upstairs, his expression tense. When he entered the room, he found Amara already holding the child. Her green uniform bore the marks of the workday, but her movements were gentle, almost magical. She rocked the baby with steady rhythm, murmuring a song in her native language. The crying faded into soft sighs, and within minutes, the child fell asleep against her shoulder. William stood frozen at the doorway, watching. His heart, which had felt like stone for years, beat harder at the sight. It was like watching a living painting, the simple woman cradling what he held most dear in the world. For a moment, he felt vulnerable and also safe, as if that image was a refuge he had never imagined. He stepped closer slowly, his voice low so as not to wake the baby. "You have a gift. I've never seen him fall asleep so quickly. Not with me, not with anyone." Amara didn't raise her eyes, continuing to rock the child. "It's not a gift, sir. It's just a warm embrace. Sometimes, that's all they need." Silence settled, heavy and sweet at once. William reached out, almost unconsciously, and touched her hand as she adjusted the baby's blanket. The contact was brief but intense. Her warm skin against his sent a wave of emotion words couldn't describe. "Thank you," he said, and his voice sounded different. Not the voice of a distant boss, but of a man finding a lost part of himself. Amara looked up, and their eyes met. For seconds, the world seemed to stop. There was a silent connection, something neither of them would dare to admit. But the intensity of the gesture said more than any speech. Suddenly, Amara pulled back, her heart racing. She carefully placed the baby in the crib and stepped away, as if needing air. I shouldn't be here like this. There's a line I can't cross. William, still close, tried to ease the moment. You didn't do anything wrong. You just took care of him. But he hesitated, searching for the right words. I had forgotten what it feels like to feel safe in this room. And today, I felt it. Amara lowered her head, unable to hold his gaze. With all due respect, sir, you belong to a world that isn't mine. I can't allow myself to feel anything beyond duty. William stepped back, respecting the boundary. But the flame had already been lit. He watched her leave the room, taking more than her presence with her. She left behind the certainty that, for the first time in years, he was no longer alone. The tension Amara carried after that touch still burned in her skin. But in the following days, it became clear that the silent bond between her and William could no longer be hidden. Small gestures, lingering glances, rare smiles over impromptu meals with Zara and the baby, growing trust, revealed what both tried to deny. But nothing in a house that big stayed secret for long. On the weekend, the Bradfords arrived. William's mother, elegant in navy blue, and his older brother, dressed in a flawless suit, stepped out of a black car. The meeting in the main hall was cold from the beginning. Amara, quietly organizing the table, felt their eyes fall on her like blades. "That's her," whispered his mother, not even trying to hide it. "The maid. Is she the one you've been spending time with?" William stood firm. "What are you implying?" His brother crossed his arms. "Everyone's noticed. You've changed, and we know where that's coming from. Think about the family's reputation, a staff member, an immigrant." Amara froze but found strength. "I never asked for anything. Just dignity for my daughter. If my presence is too much, I can leave right now." She began to remove her apron, but William grabbed her arm. The hall fell silent. "Enough," he said, his voice sharp. "Amara is not an opportunist. She's the one who brought life back into this house, who made my sons smile and sleep peacefully. If you can't accept that, the problem isn't hers. It's yours." The impact was immediate. The staff exchanged glances. Zara held her mother's hand with pride, and Amara, stunned, cried, not from pain, but from relief. The brother tried to object, but William raised his voice. "I'm living. For the first time in years, I'm living. And I won't let prejudice destroy that." The silence lingered. The look William gave Amara sealed something words couldn't explain. In the face of judgment, their love was no longer a secret. It was a challenge thrown at the world. The silence that had filled the room that night left a deep mark. The next day, the mansion felt different. No murmurs, no scornful looks, only a strange calm, as if everyone knew that nothing would ever be the same. Amara woke up early, still consumed by William's words. If they can't accept it, the problem isn't hers, it's theirs. No one had ever defended her like that before. No one had ever made her feel seen in front of people who only looked at her skin color, her status, and the uniform she wore. While tidying up the living room, William appeared, no tie, his expression lighter. "Amara." She looked up, unsure, If you want me to step back so you don't feel like your image is being compromised, I'll understand." He took a deep breath. "No, Amara. Yesterday I realized I've spent too many years protecting an image. You're not something to be ashamed of. You're the reason I've started to believe life can be more than business and loneliness." Holding back tears, she answered firmly, "I've learned that my dignity doesn't depend on where I work or how people see me. It's inside me." Just then, Zara walked in with her teddy bear in hand, and William's baby greeted her with open arms. Their laughter filled the room. William looked at Amara and smiled. That's what matters. Not skin color, not last names, not bank accounts. Love has no boundaries. Emotionally, Amara replied, and what if one day the world doesn't understand? He took her hands firmly. Then we'll face it together. Because true power doesn't come from what I own. It comes from the courage to love beyond appearances. The touch now was open, without fear. The mansion seemed to breathe differently, as if it had been transformed into a home. That night, Amara knew she was no longer just the woman who mopped the floors of that house. She was the heart that had transformed it. Final lesson. True love doesn't recognize boundaries of class, color, or origin. It blossoms exactly where society least expects and transforms lives forever. And that brings us to the end of this story of love, struggle, and resilience. One that proved true wealth lies in the courage to love beyond appearances. But now I want to hear from you. What did you think of this story? Leave a comment with your rating from 0 to 10. How much did it touch your heart? If you liked it, give the video a like, share it with someone special, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next stories. And before you go, I've already lined up another even more emotional story that will touch your heart in a unique way.